It did not occur to mankind that a swift fate might be hanging over us, or that from the blackness of outer space we were being scrutinized.
My mother was telling my brother and I that she and my dad stayed up late at night and watched this movie where a flying saucer came out of a hole in the ground and then a cobra came out of the flying saucer and attacked these men. And we're like, Mom's been drinking. You know, it sounded so surreal. And then when I saw it on television within a year, I was like, oh my God, she was right. This is exactly what happened. It was one of those things where the way it was described was so beyond my imagination.
Is that some kind of a flying machine?
No. Probably some form of magnetic flux like invisible legs. This is amazing.
It was one of those movies that sort of defined a generation.
That's how the Martians, yes.
When George Pal decided to make the movie, he chose to not make it period, but to make it contemporary.
There's something moving!
Which fit it correctly into the general level of the communists are coming movies.
The Martians are coming this way. We must evacuate the city.
In the 50s, one of the things that united us all, us kids, was fear of the atom bomb. And we were a pretty paranoid generation. Every time an airplane flew over, we would tense up in class and wonder if there was going to be a whistle for the bomb drop, because we were so inured to seeing the footage and the scare films that they were running about how the communists were going to kill us.
And there is a flash, duck and cover, and do it fast.
How we had to put our heads down and then we'd be okay when the atom bomb dropped.
I think sci-fi tapped into the paranoia, mainly fear of the atom bomb. I feel like that's what started it, because the first atom bomb was dropped on American soil.
It's like, well, what are the dangers of all these nuclear tests that we're doing? Where is that going to take us? The possibilities of science seemed endless. And then, consequently, because of the war, because of the rockets, because of the bomb, also potentially vastly more dangerous.
Science fiction films, horror films, fantasy films, they have a tendency to mirror the anxieties of the era in which they were made.
Will you tell these fools I'm not crazy? Make them listen to me before it's too late!
The fear of the Red Menace, of spies coming in and changing our minds.
It's a malignant disease spreading through the whole country.
Enlisting our emotions and eliminating them and turning us into fundamentally automatons. That was a pretty potent fear at that time. And I think Body Snatchers really expresses it particularly well.
Danger! Go on, get out of here! You're endangered, flee!
The idea of losing yourself and being replaced is a scary idea.
What could be more terrifying than the threat of losing who you are, your very identity, what makes you you, and to have someone else come along and take that away from you and walk around as you and nobody knows.
People weren't what they said they were, and that paranoia feeds into a lot of really classic mid-century science fiction and horror, and Invasion of the Body Snatchers is the ultimate example in suburban paranoia.
The baby asleep yet, Sally?
Not yet, but she will be soon, and there'll be no more tears.
I think science fiction was kind of undervalued in the beginning years.
The general idea throughout culture back then was, oh, it's kid stuff, it's comic book stuff, it's, it can't be taken seriously. Which is why I so admire those storytellers who came along. They took it seriously and they wrote provocative, often controversial, adult-themed things. And I think it took a lot of courage to step out of the pulp fiction ghetto of what was selling at that time. And those filmmakers who made these gems along the way that said, no, it's not just kid stuff. This is actually one of the most vital adult art forms possible. clash of what human beings experience as we go along is a fascinating subtext. Certainly in 2001, that's the core of that movie.
It's technically flawless. It's visually undeniable. To this day, the effects are impeccable. I mean, there's nothing in it looks like it's fake, still.
It's I would say the only movie that hasn't been rendered quaint in its effects by modern digital technology, which has taken special effects so far beyond what was imaginable even 20 years ago. 2001, it looks like you're there. It really looks like you're seeing reality. That was a result of incredibly painstaking, very advanced work, and not a single computer to be had. It was all handcrafted.
Roger, you're 2013.
No one had ever taken the time and put the effort and the work and the dedication and the attention to detail into a science fiction movie as Stanley Kubrick did. He worked with NASA on creating realistic-looking spacecraft. He worked with IBM on creating a computer. So just the dedication to detail resulted in this vision of our future that was light years ahead of anything that had come before it.
2001 is a purely cinematic experience. It was a novel, but the novel was based on the screenplay. Kubrick and Arthur Clarke developed a story together, but the film is a visual experience. There are ginormous swaths of no dialogue, and you don't need dialogue. And the film is also a bit of a Rorschach test. The general story about man evolving beyond its current state, but there's a lot that's there for your interpretation. By design or happenstance, you're allowed to define what that movie is about to yourself. And I think that that's the true brilliance of it.
We're living in a science fictional world now. Every time you pull your smartphone out of your pocket and talk to your mom, and you can see her there, it's like Haywood Floyd in 2001 talking to his daughter.
Hello!
We can do this now. People take it so for granted that, okay, well, this is just the world we're in. We're living now in science fictional times. We're learning more about the universe around us day by day than we ever could have even imagined. Where does science fiction go from here if we're living in this science fiction world? How do we continue to examine humanity and human nature and the possibilities of the future? It becomes more and more challenging. It's amazing what some brilliant authors and storytellers have predicted that have come true. And it also sometimes amazes me how much we failed to predict that has come true.